BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Welcome to Match of the Day Top 10. I'm on my own today. Well, not quite on my own. I've got a guest, obviously, but Jermaine Genus is on holiday. I mean, what a luxury to get a holiday with this season that goes on for 12 months. But let's hope he enjoys it. But I am with one of the best finishers to play in the Premier League, who also captained the Republic of Ireland for a decade and is their record goal scorer. Yes, of course, it's Robbie Keane. Robbie, thanks very much for joining us. Where are you, in Dublin?
Pleasure, Gary. Good to see you. Yes, I'm in Dublin. And you're right about Jermaine. I spoke to Jermaine earlier on and he's in Ibiza, so this is terrible. I can't believe he left you on your own.
Well, he'll have to quarantine when he comes home. That's for sure.
I look forward to seeing that.
Exactly. How's lockdown been for you?
Yeah, it's been okay, to be honest with you. You know, Gary, I've been involved in football for 25 years and we've been travelling around the world, played in different countries. So I've never really had the opportunity to live in Ireland, for a period of time. So this is probably the first time I've actually spent with the kids and the family for 3 months with no phone, not having to travel anywhere and not being involved in football. So I actually quite enjoyed it, to be honest. I know people have different views on it, but as I said, for me to spend, I've got 2 young kids, 10 and 4, so to spend a bit of quality time with them, I actually enjoyed it.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Obviously, we're recording this in advance of when it actually goes out as a podcast. In fact, it's the day after the conclusion of the Premier League season. What did you make of the season overall?
Yeah, well, obviously, it was really enjoyable up to what happened and with the pandemic, which nobody can control, obviously. I thought it was good. I thought Liverpool have been exceptional in the way they've played. The way they played football, the way they went about their business, not just this year, but last year also. So it's been a real joy to certainly watch them, especially as an attacking player like yourself. It's to watch that front three, how they flourish, how they play, with each other is really a joy to watch.
Yeah. Before we come to the gist of this, which is 10 various things that I'm going to ask you about, things you played with, etc., in your career. Just one quick question, because you mentioned that the Liverpool front three. Yeah. If you could play for either of the Liverpool or Manchester City as the central striker, which one would you choose?
Oh, that's a tough question. But I mean, I think because I was already at Liverpool, I probably would have to say that because it's such a fantastic club. But
which one would you score more goals for in the way they play?
Probably Man City.
Yeah, I thought the same.
Yeah, I thought Man City because of if you look at that front three with Mane, Salah and Firmino, the three of them score a lot of goals. Where it's shared out between them. Where if you're being selfish, as a striker like me and you were, we would probably want to play Man City because we get a lot of opportunities.
Right, Robbie, what we do with this particular podcast is I'm going to ask you for your top 10, and the top 10s are the best player you've played with, the best player you've played against, the best manager you've played under, the favourite goal you scored, the favourite game you played in, your football hero when you were growing up, the funniest moment, the biggest what-if moment, the craziest teammate, which is, you probably played with a few like I did, and the favourite international moment. Let's kick off, as we always do, with the best player you've ever played with. Now, you've played all around the world. You've played with some extraordinarily brilliant players at a lot of the countries and abroad's biggest clubs.
I get this question asked quite a lot, and you're probably the same. It's very difficult to really pick one, and I'm trying to pick my brains. All day today, I was lucky enough to obviously play in Italy with Seedorf and Vieri and people like that. Didn't get the chance to play with the R9 because that's when he had his knee problem. So for me, that would have been absolutely. That would have
been the winner, I think.
I think so. I think absolutely. But disappointed didn't get the opportunity to play with him. But going to Steven Gerrard, Beckham, and Modric. I don't know about you, Gary, but I always look at people who kind of helped me. And if I was going on strike partners, it would be Berbatov, no question because. What he did for me, I think the two of us helped each other in terms of games. But if I had to really knuckle down one as an all-round player, I'd probably say Luka Modric, probably the magician. Just the way and
Ballon d'Or winner, of course.
Yeah, and just what he's done. Not just when I played with him, he came in, and when he first came in, we didn't really know too much about him. And as soon as he walked into the door, the lads were like, "He's a bit small, isn't he? He's a bit slight. I can't really see him. Setting the Premier League."
How long did it take you to realise that you had something special there?
If we were in Spain on pre-season. And there was a couple of training sessions. He was quite quiet, He's only starting to learn a little bit English. He spoke a little bit, not much. So we did a couple of training sessions, five-a-sides, and it was like a round robin five-a-side. And then a couple of things he did, and you thought, "Oh, that was good." And then he did it again, and you're like, and then he took someone on, did a step over, and bent it in the top corner. And then you're like, "Oh, this lad, he's got certainly something." And then as the weeks went on in the pre-season, you thought this lad is really, really got something. But could he do it in the Premier League when it's it's tough, it's physical league? Yeah. And he took to it with ease. And then just proud really to see what he's gone and done since then. So as an all-round player, and just to play with, because I like to link getting that number 10 role. At times, me and Berbatov used to, chop and change, and he'd always try and find you. He'd always look for that pass forward. So he's definitely one that's up there. But I was very blessed to play with, with so many.
You played so many. Did you mention Gareth Bale? You would have played with him at
Gaz,
Tottenham, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but Gaz, when I was forced to, Gaz was a kid, so he was 18, and then we played for a few years, and then Gaz, as he started as a left back. And I think everybody knew that he wasn't really a left back because he was so quick going forward. He could take people on with ease. But I was probably in my final year at Spurs when Gareth really started. In that Inter Milan game when he scored a hat trick, I was involved in playing that game. So he really kicked on from there. But I didn't have a spell where I was at 2-3 years where he was at really, really, really high level, where Modric came straight in and he was the main man straight away.
I worked with Clarence Seedorf quite a lot, obviously on television. He was a pundit for us for a while at the BBC. He was a player, wasn't he? You played with him at Inter.
Yeah, he was my roommate, and
was he?
He was a nightmare because
I can imagine he's quite fussy on certain things from my experience. So he liked to be brought mangoes at a certain temperature and sushi and stuff.
I did. Yeah, we used to stay in the training ground. Overnight. I mean, you used to room together. It was really two little single beds, kind of. And he used to stay up so late. And I used to always have to be in bed before 12 o'clock, always. So he goes, "Always put a movie on," but they're always animation movies, like The Lion King and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's not really my cup of tea, but it's Clarence Seedorf. I was only 21 years of age. So we used to watch, and then we'd finish watching the movie about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And he goes, "Cup of tea?" I was like, so we go downstairs in the kitchen and go down and make ourselves a cup of tea and a lemon cake at 2 a.m. And then I was lying in bed and he would go straight to sleep because he's used to doing it. Fall asleep, and I'm wide awake. I have the caffeine in me and a lemon cake. And so that was quite interesting. And he'd wake up early in the morning and he would sleep in the afternoon when we had a game in the evening. And I couldn't sleep in the afternoon. So I used to have about 6 hours sleep, so he was a bit of a nightmare like that. But he was
hilarious. It's quite funny though, isn't it? How you put people together as roommates, and there's not that much thought goes into it, is there? You would think. I mean, do they still room together, players, or they have their own rooms now?
I'm not sure. I think they have their own rooms, especially in Tottenham. Tottenham have their own, obviously, little hotel. Yeah. They have their own rooms.
I used to have to be with Peter Shilton for a few years with England. Not only did he kick me out in the afternoons so he could do his bets, but he also snored I used to have to get out of my bed and give him a whack to shut him up. And sometimes you'd have sleepless nights and you think, well, we're playing for England here in the World Cup. What is going on? It
was just a norm then, wasn't it, to have roommates? I was roommates with Richie Dunn from 10 or 12 years, and he was completely fine. But in club level, I like to be on my own because I like my own routine. Because it's international is different because you meet up every now and again. You're probably with each other for maybe 4 or 5 days. Obviously, if you're in tournaments, it's a little bit different. But for Spurs and stuff like that, I like to be on my own because I like to wake up and do my own thing, and I don't like to disturb people. But I do find I think now that everyone is probably, I would imagine, be on their own.
I would
And
think
also,
so.
he shaved my hair, Clarence Seedorf. So he used to have his
He
own
what?
blade. If you ever look pictures back of me playing for Inter Milan, so it was a bit like this, and then he goes to me, "Oh, cut your hair." I say, "Yeah, just don't go too tight, because it's I only want no problem." He cuts it. He puts the wrong blade, so it was a blade 2. So I looked like Roy Keane instead of Robbie Keane.
You did mention Roy Keane you played with.
Yeah. Well, Roy, I always mention Roy as well. There's so many.
I mean, wonderful.
I only played with Roy probably 20
Yeah.
times, maybe 25, probably. Roy was up there.
Well, he left the World Cup, didn't he?
Yeah, we won't go there. You can ask Mick about that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Roy is up there with all these players, Steven Gerrard. I always mention Roy, but it's so difficult to name one of them. Because they're all equally as good,
Exactly. You've played with some great players. You've also played against some great players. That's our next question. The best player you've ever played against?
Has to be Messi.
You played against Messi, yeah.
Has to be. My 100 cap for the national team. It was actually my little lad was the mascot at the time. He was only a baby. But it was a great moment for me, obviously, to get 100 caps and play against, I thought at that time, was going to be the best player in the world. And not even that he was on holidays. This was, just after the season, I think in August. And he was off for 4 weeks or something on holidays. Yeah. And he only flew in the day before. And Mascherano said to me, "Oh, Messi just flew in yesterday," because I was at Liverpool with Mascherano. He said he only flew in yesterday. It was the best 60 minutes performance I've ever seen from a football player. It was like, you're in the park and you're playing against kids and you're older and there's little kids and you're running around them. It was like that. It was honestly, it was incredible. And 60 minutes he played, he got man of the match, and he came off and the whole Aviva Stadium gave him a standing ovation. It was just a joy to watch.
It is extraordinary when you play at the top level, isn't it? For so long, like yourself, played against so many great players, played with so many great players, and you can suddenly play against someone that is actually on another level to even the great players that you play with. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, he just used to walk past people. I just couldn't believe it, because I don't know you as a player, I needed at least 2, 3, 4 games to get me up to full speed.
Yeah,
to feel really sharp and feel good where I've got a chance of scoring a few here. He just came, trained the day before, and just was walking past people like they weren't even there. And I was just like, I was playing obviously up front, and I kept looking at him. I'd imagine if you put a camera on me, I'd be standing still quite a lot, just watching him. The stuff he was doing, he was nutmegging people, just running past, taking 3 or 4 players on. And then that's when you look at someone like him, you go, that's why they are the best players in the world, because they can do things at ease.
Extraordinary talent. Managers, played under many top managers, of course. The best one you played for?
Another, again, tough one. I always go, people that I was, that I really enjoyed playing. Mick McCarthy, certainly won them because his honesty in the World Cup. We had a great tournament there in 2002. I love Mick's honesty. He's what you see is what you get, as you know him yourself. He's a great guy. In terms of tactically, Trapattoni was unbelievable. We didn't lose a game, I don't think, for 3 or 4 years away from home for Ireland when he was in charge. The one I enjoyed really most, I probably played my best football, I would say, probably Martin Jol at Tottenham.
Yeah, Tottenham.
Yeah. I really liked him, the way he played. Liked to play out from the back, liked to play football. But not just that, he was a good guy. He was a really good guy. He was hard, he was fair. But you could have a laugh and a joke with him, and he had that Dutch funny, arrogant humour, if you like, and but in a really, really good way. He was a character, but I enjoyed working with him. He was good. You'd always go out and feel like that you could do your best for him, and he was always trying to help you, and not just me, just all the other players. And I think the relationship when he brought Berbatov in, both of us really clicked with each other, and he was him for bringing him in was great. So yeah, I'd say probably Martin Jol is definitely up there.
Funny you mentioned Berbatov there, and that great partnership that he had, really successful, scored lots of goals, both of you. What was he like to play with? Because obviously he comes across as, he's quite kind of laid back, doesn't exactly run around too much. Did he leave that side of it to you?
Yeah.
Was there a nice balance there?
Yeah, I've told him that many times. That I used to do was running for him. But you know what? someone like Berber, you have to know him. I knew him straight away. We just clicked. I knew what his personality was. He didn't like to be bothered most of the time. I was one where I could have a laugh and a joke with him, and I could really get to him. So we really clicked straight away, and I think he's mentioned that a few times, that I was the one that accepted him of what he was. Listen, it looked like he wasn't running around as much because the way he is, the way he walks and the way he runs, it just looks really, lazy. But it's actually not. He was very clever in how he did it. So he would rather, he goes, why would I run, 50 yards out there if I just drop into a space 10 yards and stop the midfield from getting the ball. So he was very, very intelligent football player. But on the pitch, the two of us clicked. We had respect for each other, but also we weren't selfish, the two of us. So if I had an opportunity to score, an opportunity to pass to him, from a tap-in, I would give it to him, and vice versa. And we just had this understanding where would he go long, I'd go short, and vice versa. So it was a really, really good balance.
You never mentioned Rafa Benitez. I know you weren't at Liverpool that long, and it perhaps wasn't your most successful period of your career. Did you not get on? No,
do you know what? We were actually okay, to be honest with you. I just knew there was probably something when the first couple of games I played left wing, and it wasn't, obviously I've never played there. I used to drift out there, a bit, but I never really played there. Then I had a spell where I was playing really well, and then he would I think I scored a couple of goals. I scored a great volley against Arsenal, and then didn't play the next game. So it was a little bit like that a lot of the time. But he had a certain way he wanted to play, and I respected that. In terms of a manager, tactically, he was very, very good, really good. But we never had any problems, never had a proper falling out. I have a conversation with him, of course, because, I scored 2 the weekend and then I'm not playing. So he liked to play away, where he liked to play midfielder, and there he played Stevie as the 10 and Torres high up. So listen, I'm not going to argue with Steven Gerrard. His record, playing with Torres was unbelievable also. So honestly, the two of us never really had a proper fallout. Rafa,
it's frustrating though. It's frustrating though, isn't it? I had similar circumstances under Johan Cruyff, unbelievably great coach.
Yeah.
Didn't really figure in his plans. Played me on the wing most of the season. It's for a striker though. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. Listen, especially when you haven't played there, you do certain things. For the team. Obviously, if you win the game, you might have to go out on the wing, or that's certainly fine. But actually starting there is a little bit different. I said I wouldn't be used to it yourself. You're a number 9, likes getting behind, likes to score goals. I was the same. So it never obviously suited me. But it can be, of course, frustrating because you want to be in a position where you feel most comfortable. But listen, I certainly don't regret it. It's a team that, as people know, that I supported as a kid growing up, and then having the opportunity to play for them, it was great. But I think a lot of people, if they know me, all I ever want to do is play football. I'm not one of these that will sit on the bench and accept and get my wages and be happy for that. I just want to play football. I don't wake up every Monday and look forward to sitting on the bench on Saturday. It just doesn't work for me.
So all you want to do is play, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like do when that's why you go into the game in the first place, because you love it.
Yeah.
Let's go on to some good bits now. The favourite goal that you've ever scored. Now, you've scored a hell of a lot of goals, Robbie. Obviously, the record scorer for Ireland. You've scored some big goals as well, important ones. What's your favourite?
Well, there's a couple down the bottom here I'll probably go into later on. But I think the favourite goal probably in the Premier League, I would have to say against Blackburn. We played back with a throw-in from Media and I chipped it over Robbie Savage's head, which is always nice, chipping over Robbie Savage's head, and especially when you see them blonde locks going up in the air. It was even
It's quite a lobbing getting over that bar.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I had to go a little bit higher. But yeah, that was probably one. I just enjoyed that goal because that was probably a me goal. If you like, I wasn't one from 20, 30 yards, get it and smack it in the top corner. Mine was a little bit more cheeky, if you like. So that's probably in the Premier League is probably most one I enjoyed.
Yeah, and your celebration, which obviously was very much part and parcel of your career. Where did that come from originally?
Listen, it's not a really exciting story. Just as a kid growing up, I was very skinny. I could do cartwheels. I could do flips. I was just messing about on the street with it, just as you do with your friends. And then when I started playing football when I was a kid, one of the lads said to me, "Oh, if you score on Saturday, do the cartwheel." I said, "Oh, okay." So I ended up doing it. Then I went to another team. Then I went to Wolves. And then a couple of years later, I added a little bit to it, obviously. I just did my first ever goal for Wolves was just a cartwheel, and that was it. And then I added the tumble and the slingshot.
And the shooting.
But, you know, it's funny that stuff because I hate watching that.
Do you?
Yeah.
What, are you embarrassed or?
Yeah. We used to play the games. I'd say Tottenham, wherever, and I used to go into the analyst guy before. I'd say the manager Monday will show the game and show the goal. If I scored in the goal, I used to go in before anybody else. I said, take my celebration out. Do not put my celebration in.
This does beg the question, Robbie. If you were so embarrassed by it, why did you keep doing it?
You know, it's like, why did Shearer keep doing that? It's like the same.
I don't think Shearer's embarrassed about it because he still does it now every chance he gets.
He loves it. You know what? It was just, I don't know. I just thought it was me. I think people, as soon as I scored, everything changed. You know, before I go out, I'd say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. And then as soon as I score, as you know, it's like everything completely changes. You forget what's around you, and you just go off on a mad one. So.
Do you miss that feeling, Robbie? I mean, it's the one thing I find latterly in my career, and I've been lucky enough to find something else that I can do, and it's almost similar in many ways, talking about football rather than playing it. You've still got a bit of team spirit in our studios, not as many players, but it's still a bit of banter. But that feeling, that magical feeling of scoring a big goal in a big game, it's irreplaceable.
No, 100%. And I think that's why people struggle probably, you know, when they finish playing football, because they can never get that feeling really back again. I know I found it certainly hard finishing football, but it's very hard to explain to someone, you know, to scoring a goal, that feeling. Unless you've done it many, many times yourself. You can't really sit down to someone and really put it into really proper words how it feels to actually score.
It's like an explosion of emotion and joy and relief and all sorts of. The way I describe it, it's like people when they're following their team and they score an important goal, and it's magical for you as a supporter. But it's like that times 10 if you've actually done it yourself, isn't it? Yeah,
you know, I hate it. I used to love before the 10 seconds, and then as soon as the whistle went, it was gone. You almost just want to be there for 10 minutes and just to have that feeling for 10 minutes, just soak it in and just stand there for 10 minutes. But then as soon as you go back to halfway and the ref blows the whistle, it's just like gone. Yeah. It's amazing. It's a weird feeling, and it's hard to explain it.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Favourite game that you've ever played in?
A game I've played in
your very long career in many different countries.
I would say. Again, I'll go. But there's international down there later on, so I'll keep this. But in England, I would say probably the Chelsea final, in the Carling Cup for Tottenham. It's been so long since they've won anything. No, we all play obviously to win things, to win trophies. So, in terms of favourite, it wasn't great game. I didn't score a hat trick or anything like that, or I didn't score it. Like it wasn't about that. It was just about that feeling that we had, and that because we were up against it as well. This is when Chelsea had all the money. They had a top team. So we were complete underdogs in the game. But, if you look on paper, our team, we had a great team also. But we were never the favourite. So to actually go and win that game 2-1, I would have to say that because, being in England for so long, and then, the only opportunity you have to win a cup, and that's what it was.
Yeah, it is a great feeling because it's that team bonding moment, isn't it? Of collecting the silverware. It's less personal. It's about the whole thing, doing it together. Yeah, and also you see the ups and downs of the season that you had from the start to the finish, the arguments that maybe people have, and then everything completely goes out the window when you walk up them steps at Wembley and you lift that trophy. Yeah, we'll come to your international bits towards the end. You played a lot of games for Ireland, so you'll have to give that a little bit of thought. But in the meantime, let's take you back to your childhood, your footballing hero growing up.
Well, I was a Liverpool fan growing up. So my brother was a Liverpool fan. So I got. He used to always talk about. He was 4 years older than me. Talk about the Kenny Dalglishs and people like that. But I didn't really get to see them because Kenny was at the end of his career. Yeah. I obviously watched a lot of videos, but for me it was like John Barnes and Ian Rush were the two players that. I would always look up to Ian Rush because of his goals, obviously. Great finisher, great poacher, and John Barnes just because of his flair. I just loved the way he played the game, how he walked, take people on, effortless. I mean, you played with him, you would tell me better. But when the goal he scored against Brazil, and just to be able to do that, have that quality to drift past people, was incredible. So they're definitely the two players that I looked up to the most.
Yeah, he was a wonderful player, John. I was really lucky in my England career to play with John Barnes on one side a lot of the games and Chris Waddle on the other. Two wings and Beardsley behind as well. It was a real treat. I mean, Barnsley made the game look so easy, so effortless in his style. Such an intelligent footballer, and so graceful. And in '86, he was sub against Argentina, and then we were 2-0 down with the two Maradona goals, and then John came on and just lit the place up and gave me easy ball for me to score, and then I nearly got another one from another one of his crosses. But a wonderfully talented player. And he used to get a bit of stick playing for England. They say, he doesn't quite do it for England, and blah, blah, blah. And I used to say, well, hang on a minute. When you play for your country, for someone like John Barnes, he's playing on the left wing, he's playing against the best right back in that country, wherever that is. Whereas in the league, you're playing against a mixture. Sometimes you play against great fullbacks, sometimes you play against ordinary fullbacks. But he still did. He might have done 10 unbelievably good things in a Liverpool game or a Watford game when he played there. But when he played for England, it might only be 5 or 6 brilliant things, but it's 5 or 6 more brilliant things than an ordinary player. They don't understand the difficulties of international football because you do play against, obviously, the best players from each country. So in many ways, it's harder, and you don't have that consistency, do you, that you play week in, week out with your teammates? No,
absolutely. What I loved about John Barnes, and you said about how clever he was and intelligent, towards the end of his career, when he went to play in centre midfield for Newcastle, and he was like, you would think he was playing there all his life, just getting the ball, manipulating play, keeping the ball moving, and I know his pace was completely gone, but he never ever lost the ball. So that just goes to show you what really, really clever footballer he was.
Yeah, he was. He was superb. Right, here we go. I'm sure you've had a few. Your funniest moment?
My funniest moment, as in funniest moment in football, what I've seen, or a few funny moments that I've just been involved around the football.
You can do both if you like.
Well, there's
whatever you prefer. There's no out and out rules on this. We're not going to go to VAR.
Okay. There's a couple that have. One of the funniest thing what we did when we used to play for Leeds, we used to have the yellow jersey on a Friday, and it was amazing. And Jonathan Woodgate was in a garage, and he was driving back home to Middlesbrough, and he seen this Reliant Robin, the exact same as the one from Only Fools and Horses, and he said to the guy, "I'll buy that off you." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "How much is it?" Say it was 500 quid or something. He goes, "Right, I'll give you 800." He buys it. We bring it down to the training ground. He gets one of his mates to drive down to the training ground. So everyone got the yellow jersey on the Friday would have to drive it in. So all the players.
The worst trainer.
Yeah. So Ian Hart got it, and a little persuasion. He wouldn't do it at the start, and the lads were absolutely caning him. Gary Kelly, as you know, was his uncle, so he was hammering him, saying, "You have to drive it." So anyway, he drove it. So if you probably see some videos now, it's all over YouTube, I think. Videos him driving Lion Robin into the Leeds car park. And that just, for me, that was just one of the funniest moments. It's probably one of those where you'd have to be there. But seeing Ian Hart, who was like this in a Reliant Robin, driving into the Leeds stadium, all the media there watching it was funny. Another one was with one of your colleagues, JJ. We played Newcastle away, and we had a night out there, and we drove down the next day, and we had a golf day for Tottenham. And me and JJ were in the golf buggy, and we had these two lads, two older lads, if you like, playing golf. So I used to always get the back of the buggy and open the thing so that the golf clubs would fall out. So when you take golf, but we didn't do it once. We did it for the whole 4 hours with these guys, and they didn't know at all. So we did it. So we went in after 9 holes. And the guy went, something wrong with the buggy. It keeps loosening up. So we got another buggy. Straight away, kept doing it every hole, and then on the 18th hole, me and JJ told them. To be fair, they were brilliant. They were a great sport. They took a well, but that was one of probably the funniest 4 hours of golf I think I've ever had.
Yeah, you should have drove around in the Del Boy car.
That would have been funny, wouldn't it?
That would have been absolutely. Did you ever have to drive it?
No, I never got.
You're never the worst in training.
No, I never got. Training was my training was my game.
No, right. The biggest what if. So a moment where if something else had happened, it would have been, in your career. What is it?
In football.
Yep.
The penalty shootout. In 2002 against Spain. Definitely, we were the much better team. We battered Spain in the last 16, and with a much better team. Extra time, we were a team on top. Yeah. We probably should have scored 1 or 2. It goes to penalties, and then we lose. Mendieta scored the final penalty to beat us. But that's it. What if? Because South Korea was next after that in the quarterfinals, and we would have fancied ourselves against South Korea. All
you'd
day.
had a really good chance.
Yeah, we would have really, and then to get to semi-final. So that's always when I look back at and go, what if we scored in extra time? Or penalties is completely different. But the game.
It's devastating though, isn't it? Losing a penalty shoot in a World Cup. I mean, it's you only get one go every 4 years, and you're lucky if you get more than one World Cup in your career. And when that sort of thing happens, I mean, it's had the same thing obviously against Germany in the semi-final. It is the one thing that you look back on and think, if only, because it's kind of just up in the air, isn't it? One of those things. No,
exactly. But I think the 9 part was because we were so good in the extra time that we should have actually beat them. So certainly that one, and another one. What if Henry didn't handball? It could be in World Cup. So
you played another one, wouldn't you?
Played another one, but listen, it's one of those things.
Did you see that handball?
I was too far back. I was way too far back. But it was clearly obvious because every player ran to the linesman straight away. So
it's funny that we've both been done in World Cups, or you're in a qualifier on us by an obvious handball. That the only people that didn't see it on the pitch are the officials.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so Maradona's one is certainly famous, obviously. But listen, the Henry one was obviously disappointing. But that's another one also. We battered them in that game. That was probably, I'd say, as a team performance, it was probably the best game I think we've played, that I've been involved in as in a team. Playing in France with 1-0 down. I scored to make it 1-1, and they were just gone. We had them on the ropes the whole game. Could have scored a couple more. So that's another one where that game should have been put to bed. Yeah. But always seems to happen to the so-called, if you like, smaller nations that you never really get that look of the green. Pardon the pun.
Well, you're supposed to have the look of the Irish.
I know, we didn't get it that day, definitely.
Yeah. Have you ever spoken to Thierry Henry about it?
No, I've met him loads of times. Listen, I'm not one of these that holds grudges against people. It's football. We've been in the game long enough, and I'm not interested. I like Thierry. He's a good lad. I've been in his company many times. But it's not a conversation they have with someone. It's just, he's got a reaction. You can never ever know until you hear from the horse's mouth. But I certainly don't have a problem with him. I'm just gutted that we didn't get there because we probably should have won the game. Forget about the handball, but we should have won the game.
Yeah. Craziest teammate?
Oh.
A few contenders, are there?
There's David Bentley, Gary Kelly, and Steve Sedgley, which you played with. Steve
Sedgley, oh yeah, I can totally understand that one.
But there's there's certain stuff the good listeners wouldn't want to know. So it's very difficult to.
I think like.
The cleanest one I could say is probably Gary Kelly. Gary Kelly was one of the greatest probably teammate you could have He was brilliant with the manager. He was very funny. He would do funny things, but the manager absolutely loved him. He could get away with more than just the stuff he used to do. But we used to live on the top of a hill, and at the bottom of the hill was a pub called the Bingley Arms. And all the lads, maybe on a Sunday, we used to go there. And Gaz used to have this little Honda 50, like the one from Dumb and Dumber, a little small thing. So he used to just drive it down there. I mean, it's literally 10 seconds from his house. You just walk down. But he used to come on his Honda 50 and goes, lads, wait for me outside. So as he's driving the car park, he just go, and just jump off it and let it go straight into the bushes and pick it up later on. So that's a clean one, I could say. But David Bentley was kind of similar to Gary Kelly. He could just do crazy stuff in the change room. Steve Sedgley, you probably have a couple of stories on stage.
One or two, yeah. Did Steve Sedgley you do his party piece, the blue things in the loo?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what I could say that. Yeah,
I think we can. I mean, he wouldn't mind. He was daft. I'm sure he's more sensible now in his older age. But he used to have those blue things to clean in the bottom of a toilet, didn't he? And he would, as a dare, he would get them out and like take a chunk out of it and bite it. I mean, it's just the grossest thing ever. One of the most remarkable things I've ever seen.
I know, and he
was still alive.
And he told us the funniest thing ever. To be fair, we did as well. But there's a lot of heaving going on in the dressing room at the time. I know. A couple of other things he used to do as well. We can't repeat.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think it might have been him. I'm not sure if he was the culprit or not. But someone peed in a cup of tea that they made for Gaza.
That's definitely him.
Yeah, I would think it was definitely him. Gaza had a sip of the tea, and then everyone's like burst into like hysterics, and they're all laughing at him and saying, "Oh God, you've drank that. He's peed in your tea." And Gaza just goes, "I don't care." Drank the rest of it. You couldn't make it up, and we're not making it up. That's the remarkable thing about it. But,
two funny lads together there. They probably try to get one up on each other there. They didn't care, did they? Them two.
Exactly. Right. Our last one of our top 10 moments. This is your favourite international moment.
It'd have to be the World Cup 2002, definitely. I mean, as a kid growing up in Ireland, watching 1990 and 94, when he played against, you scored as well against us. So that was growing up in Ireland and having always wanted to play in a World Cup, and on the street playing World Cup teams and stuff like that, and then to have the opportunity yourself to play in it. And as you know, it's the atmosphere just leading up to the thing is incredible. But then actually when you're there, it's the best feeling ever. And then the score also in the World Cup, against Germany in the last minute, to give us an opportunity to qualify to the next round.
That must have been the most magical moment.
No, absolutely, yeah. Just as I said, just the whole thing of the World Cup and playing against one of the best teams, actually got to the final that year. And again, we played really well that game, but to score in the last minute when we thought, people thought it was over, and to score that equaliser against Oliver Kahn, and just having that crowd of Irish fans behind that goal there was certainly a moment that I'll never forget.
It must have been I know we talked briefly about the Roy Keane thing, but it must have been a difficult thing to go through just prior to a World Cup, that in terms of your preparation.
Yeah, but nobody obviously wanted it, did they? Of course, it's not an ideal situation when you're leading up to the biggest tournament, ever. And so I think what for us was just the speculation around us, and myself and people like Damien Duff, we were only young. We were like 21 years of age. So, every time we are doing interviews, just talking about this, where we just wanted to go, like, this is one opportunity we have to play in a World Cup. Yeah. Just let me please focus on trying to play and trying to play in the biggest tournament ever. So I kind of made a decision to myself that I need to blank this completely out of my mind here and focus on these games, because there was, as you know, Gary, there was a lot of distraction around it. But in these situations, it's important that the team come together. And I said, myself and Damien we were so young. Richie Dunn, we were so young. We just couldn't wait to just play football and just get on with it. And that's what we did. And myself and Damien were lucky enough to have a really, really good tournament. Yeah,
I mean, it was a really good side, wasn't it? I mean, that was one of the great Irish sides, wasn't it? Around that period.
Yeah, we had a mixture of good between experience and youth, myself and Damien and Duffer coming in, and we had people like Steve Staunton and Gary Kelly. Shay Given was only young as well, so we had a real good mixture, good blend, and Noel Big Quinny was there as well, keeping everybody together, taking us out on nights out now and again when we shouldn't be.
That's fantastic stuff, Robbie. You've been involved, obviously, a little bit with the Irish setup in recent times with Mick McCarthy and what would you like to get back involved with that side of things? Yeah,
well, of course, yeah. I mean, to learn off Mick was incredible. As you know, he's been in the game for a long time, and I mentioned him before about as a manager. How honest he is with his players, I think is great, and it was the same as me when I was growing up. What you see is what you get. So certainly I'll take a lot from him. Obviously being in Middlesbrough for that year also, was a great experience. I signed a 1-year contract with them, and I wanted just to get that experience of the Championship and have a balance between the Irish setup and that, and the experience I've got over the year now. It'll probably take someone 4 or 5 years to get that. So I'm very, very lucky in terms of that. But to get back into it, absolutely, yeah. It's something that I want to do. I'm very, very keen on doing. I've done all my badges. I've got my pro license. So if the right opportunity comes up, that I think would be good for me, I'll certainly would look to get back in at some stage. Yeah, I love being on the training ground. Love being involved with the players, helping younger players and try and make them better. And I've been in the game for a long time. It's for certain people, and it's not for other people. Yourself, you're probably just happy you'll enjoy doing the media, but I really love being involved in the game, as you said about earlier on the training ground, having that banter with the players and having that team spirit. I miss that, so I certainly look forward to getting back to that.
Yeah, it's hard to get the first in, isn't it? The first job, is certainly in terms of being the main coach or the manager, whichever way you want to call it. It's just getting that right opportunity, isn't it? The right owners, the right backing, and you need a bit of luck in the early days, I think.
Yeah. Listen, and also, I'm not desperate. I don't mean that in a bad way. I spoke to Marcello Lippi, who was my manager at Inter Milan. I met him holidays a couple of years ago, and he just said to me, he said, "Listen, you've got no rush. Try and get as much experience and learn as much as you can. Go and watch games, which I've done. Of course, the pandemic, I couldn't. But next season I will watch a lot of games and learn a lot and read books and stuff. So I'm doing all that." He said, because you could be a manager for 20, 30 years, or a coach, whatever it may be, for that long. So it's a long time. So don't rush. So I'm in no rush. As you said, it has to be a good opportunity that I think fits me. Whether to go in with somebody else again to get a bit more experience, or whether to to go on my own. But eventually, of course, I'd like to go on my own. But as you said, it has to be the right fit and the opportunity. As you know, in football, it's about getting the opportunity.
Well, I'm sure your career merits it, and you put in the time and the badges, etc. Robbie, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Fascinating insight, great stories, and wish you well. And thanks for doing it.
Pleasure, Gary. Good to see you, pal.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks everyone for listening to the Match of the Day Top 10. We'll be back with another one next week.
Jurgen, you're a big fan of the BBC Sounds app.
Oh, yes.
Well, we've heard reports that you've been enjoying the Football Daily podcast on it.
I loved it. That makes me quite happy, to be honest.
Jose, Football Daily is bringing top analysis and comment on BBC Sounds. How do you feel about that?
Of course, it's the best thing in football.
Are you a fan, Oli?
Yeah, I love that. Wow, this is massive.
Pep, Football Daily has some big name guests. Are you excited to listen?
This is good news for us. The team is really good.
Listen to the Football Daily podcast on the BBC Sounds app, 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 on the